To my Democratic friends, what I'd suggest is let's make sure that we understand this is a long game. This is not a short game. And to my Republican friends, I would suggest I think this is a good agreement because I know that they're swallowing some things that they don't like as well. And I'm looking forward to seeing them on the field of competition over the next 2 years.
The president himself today, and a lot of folks on the left and in the center who are defending the president's deal with the Republicans this week on taxes, are doing that defending by arguing that, hey, neither side got what it wanted here. Sure, Democrats aren't happy with the president capitulating to all these bad Republican ideas, but it was a compromise. Nobody's happy. The Republicans aren't happy either. Actually, Republicans are pretty happy. You can tell because they've already sent out their triumphant fundraising letters telling Republican donors about how much their investment in the Republican Party is paying off in the form of the Democratic president now endorsing their Republican agenda. Quote, the Democrats are in disarray. Quote, none of this would have been possible without your generous support, Republican donor. Everybody defending this deal keeps talking about how it was bad for Republicans, too. Somebody forgot to tell the Republicans that.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Let me just say we're pleased a large majority of members of the Republican conference will find this proposal worth supporting. I think the vast majority of the members of the Republican conference of the U.S. Senate feel that this is a step in the right direction. I think the vast majority of my members will be supporting it.
If your argument on behalf of this White House's political skills right now is that the president got some hard-fought concessions out of the GOP here, your argument is wrong. It may be comforting, but it is not based in fact. On the other side of the aisle, however, in the president's own party, the unhappiness is real.
We think it's wrong for tax breaks to go to millionaires. We think it's correct that it goes to the middle class.
I think it's fair to say that there's a certain amount of unease with the proposal that was put forth by the president. The test that we have to subject these proposals to on both sides of the ledger, the president's side and the Republican side, is do they create jobs? Giving a tax cut to those making over 200, the upper 2% of our country does not create jobs. It simply adds to the deficit. So both tests, it fails. It does not create jobs. It increases the deficit. And so there is unease with the proposal, and members are expressing that right now.
Another member of the Democrats' House leadership today, Congressman Chris Van Hollen, said this, quote, I have very, very serious reservations with this deal. The House never signed off on this, so it's certainly not a done deal. Vermont Congressman Peter Welch is organizing and rallying House Democrats to oppose the president's tax cut compromise with Republicans. In a letter to Speaker Pelosi signed by some of his own colleagues, Congressman Welch said, quote, we support extending tax cuts in full to 98% of American taxpayers as the president initially proposed. He should not back down, nor should we. Two incoming co-chairs of the Congressional Progressive Caucus said in a letter today, quote, we call on our congressional leaders in the House and Senate to hold firm on passing a middle-class tax cut with no strings attached. Michigan Congressman John Conyers got on board the Fight the President Express as well with this statement, quote, I will do everything in my power to make certain that legislation along these lines does not pass during the lame duck session. Not to be outdone by the People's House, Democratic senators are also making known their unhappiness with the deal. Louisiana Senator Mary Landrieu slammed the deal, saying, quote, it was describing its, quote, moral corruptness and saying, quote, this is beyond politics. This is about justice and doing what's right. Independent Senator from Vermont Bernie Sanders, never to be outdone on the job of fight leading, said, quote, I intend to do everything that I can to defeat this proposal. Of course, we saw Senator Chuck Schumer there in the middle of the segment saying we think it is wrong for tax breaks to go to millionaires. We think it's correct that it go to the middle class. One of the questions that was shouted out at the end of the president's press conference today as he walked away from the podium was, is this a done deal, Mr. President? I thought as I was watching the press conference, that's a good question. I never want these things to go longer. This time, I'd love to hear an answer to that. This deal was between the president and Republicans. Is Democratic disgust with this deal enough to stop it? Joining us now is Democratic Senator Sherrod Brown from the great state of Ohio. Senator Brown, thank you so much for your time tonight.
Good to be back, Rachel. Thanks.
I know the Vice President, Mr. Biden, has been personally trying to make the case to Democratic senators to win over support for this deal in the Senate. Do you feel like he is making a strong case?
Well, he made as sound a case as he could make for a bad deal. I think that he's always persuasive. People like him. He's a decent guy. He's smart, but to fall short. I mean, we tried these tax cuts for the rich. I mean, a lot of us voted against them, but we tried them as a country 10 years ago. We got literally negative private sector job growth in the 8 years of Bush. Negative private sector job growth contrasted with 22 million jobs during Clinton's years. So this didn't work when we had a budget surplus. Why would it work when we have this deficit? And what I fear is going to happen if we go along with this deal is in the next 2 years, the next 3 years, all the talk will be about we got to deal with this huge growing deficit. So what Republicans do is they go after Social Security and go after Medicare. That's what they always do as an answer to budget deficits. And the budget deficits are going to grow bigger and bigger because we just gave $700 billion if we agree to the plan. The president's plan is with the Republicans is $700 billion increased deficit. I mean, what's good about that?
Is there room to change this deal, do you think, to improve it in your eyes? The White House is calling it a framework, not necessarily a deal that's fully done.
I hope they're open to that, and even if they aren't, I think that we work to force the issue. There's no reason. If this was a deal mostly between a Democratic president and Republican leaders in the Senate, that doesn't mean that the Democrats go along with it in the Senate or the House. It doesn't mean we have to follow that lead, and there are a lot of changes we want to make. I mean, why would we do the worst? Why would they include the worst possible estate tax proposal out there, the one that clearly puts us even more behind the 8 ball on long-term debt? I mean, there's so many things about this that don't work, and we're going to get unemployment extension anyway. It's not a question, well, we got unemployment extension, we gave all these things away, because the Republicans always in the end cave on unemployment as it got closer to Christmas. A lot of us said to Senator Reid, keep us here until we pass unemployment. We're willing to stay as long as it takes, and Republicans eventually, a handful of them will vote to extend unemployment because they get too much pressure at home to not do that. So the ball, somebody said to me tonight, the Democrats look like they punted on 3rd down. I mean, I hate sports metaphors, but that one works pretty well in that, we could have done a lot better on this deal, no matter what some of the leaders might have said.
What you just described there about your certainty that unemployment benefits could be extended, that's a key point of disagreement between your perspective and the White House. The White House is arguing that there's no chance they could have gotten unemployment extended without this, that it would have put unemployment insurance as an entire program at risk because it not only wouldn't have been extended now, that would have put the whole program in jeopardy. Do you feel like you have a better sense about what's feasible in the Senate than the White House does, that they've just got a misinterpretation of how things work in the Senate right now?
Yeah, I don't know that I would claim any more knowledge in the White House, but I would say this, Rachel, if every day as we were in the last 2 weeks, one of us goes to the Senate floor, asks to extend unemployment benefits, the Republicans object. You do it day after day after day. Say the president then went on the road to Maine and went on the road to Massachusetts and went on the road in an industrial state with a lot of unemployment where there's a Democratic senator, or any one of a number of states where there's a Republican senator that was up for election in 2012. You can put a lot of pressure on them. You think by Christmas Day, when we said to the Republicans, okay, you're going to be here Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, the day after, most Democrats are willing to work through that. I want to go home to my family, but I also want to get this done. And we would have put enough pressure on them. They would have eventually said yes to unemployment extension because 80% of the public's with us, and they don't want, I don't care if we ruin our Christmases. We ruined the Christmases of a whole lot of workers by not extending unemployment. It's still not done. In December 1st, 90,000 Ohioans, last Tuesday night, a week ago, 90,000 Ohioans lost their unemployment. They're still wondering if they're going to have any kind of a decent Christmas, let alone next year. And we just could have kept putting the pressure on Republicans until they did it, instead of their holding hostage unemployment to get all these tax cuts for millionaires and billionaires. It's just immoral. I mean, it's absolutely morally reprehensible that they would do that. They would hold unemployment out there in order order to get their tax cuts for the richest people in the country that already are doing so well.
Senator Brown, when hearing you describe not only your passion on this issue, but your view of how it could politically work, it makes me want to know how typical you are of your caucus at this point. If you are feeling from your Democratic colleagues in the Senate a similar sense about the political possibilities here and about the priorities. Certainly we're hearing a lot of criticism of the deal, but it's hard for me to tell from outside the Washington world just how feasible it might be to pursue a different way forward than what the White House has offered.
Well, if the vice president had come in today and said, here's what we're going to do. We're going to, every day, we're going to turn on all our ability to talk to the public in all 50 states in the White House. They have a pretty good machine there to do it. We're going to put all our efforts into that to get unemployment extended. And then the president's going to fly around the country to places and put pressure on Republicans. You, every day on the Senate floor, will do it in the House, too. You stand up and ask to extend unemployment benefits. And you say, we're staying here till New Year's. You don't think a bunch of Republicans would have finally said, we give up? They would have had no choice in the end. We would have gotten not 2 or 3 of them, but I think we would have got 6 or 8 or 10 of them to extend unemployment benefits. If the vice president walked in today and said that instead of doing what he did say to defend this package that really is the opposite of what a lot of us campaigned on, it'd be a very different place.
Do you think that time is out? Do you think that time has run out, that the dice count?
I don't give up that easy, as you know, Rachel. No, I think we keep fighting. We keep speaking out. We keep asking the president to reconsider, and we work with our allies in the House. I had dinner with 5 House members tonight about a little Chinese hole-in-the-wall restaurant in our neighborhood near the Capitol, and we talked about some of this. Let's get the House to work with us, and I think some good things can happen.
Ohio Democratic Senator Sherrod Brown, thank you so much for speaking with us tonight. Hope we didn't interrupt your dinner, sir.
Not at all. Thanks.
Appreciate it.